Okay, right. Good morning, Martina.
Good
How are
morning.
you today?
I'm good, thank you. I'm good.
That's great. It's great to see you, and thank you so much for being part of this interview process that I'm doing with a group of people over a few weeks, looking at how the effects of lockdown and the regulations around COVID-19 have affected their work life, their personal and family lives, but also what benefits it's brought into their lives, if any.
Yeah.
And one of the reasons that I'm doing this, Martina, is because of my own experience earlier on in this process that was really quite mentally and emotionally challenging for me. And it kind of affected my ability to reach out to people for help. But it also opened up that area for me to address these blocks that were preventing me from moving forwards. And in that process, I realised there are hundreds of people going through, and utter confusion, going through this process and bound up in these feelings of pressure about doing something, but not knowing what to do. And also, we're in this transition of people going back to work, but not sure if they want to go back to work or what they want to do. And also, it's about the looking forward and wondering what's on the other side of this. Yeah. But there's also those people, Martina, that have had the most amazing benefits from this situation, and it's opened up areas of, opportunities for self-development that they might not ordinarily have had the opportunity to explore had it not been for this situation. And I've known you, Martina, for quite a few years now, and I met you when I was a social worker working in childcare many years ago, and you are now a social work consultant, team manager, working in the Permanence and Care Team in Aberdeen. And I'm just wondering, Martina, if I can invite you to kind of share a bit about how's this situation affected your work life, and also what have you seen in your work situation? How's it really kind of manifested in the work that you do?
Yeah, well, it's just been a really strange time, hasn't it? I mean, I think certainly for myself, I've been carrying on as normal. So at a personal level, I've been going to the office every day, although my team have all been working. At the start, they were all working at home. But the decision was taken, I guess, that there needed to be a presence in the building because families from the community might still want to reach out or try and find us. So there was just myself and one other person. So in some ways, that experience of getting up and having a routine and going to the office all felt fairly normal for me. But then when you got there, there's no team, there's no discussion about what you're doing, there's no client contact in terms of face-to-face. So ultimately you're sitting in an office trying to get used to a really alien way of communicating. So it was really strange. And I think right at the start for me, as a manager, there was a real sense of trying to keep people together to make sure everybody was feeling okay, because people were quite scared of what was going on, unsure. And that would have been staff as well as clients. People really not sure how it's all going to work. So there was a lot of effort into maybe lots of video calls, lots of phone calls. And I think at the time you think that's quite helpful because you're connecting, but actually that sort of digital communication can be really draining. And it, for me, it doesn't replace face-to-face, but, it took a while to get used to. And I think as people have relaxed into it and found a level that's comfortable, both staff and clients, I think it is working. Some people, some children, for example, really engage well on video calls. And actually, we weren't really using that before, but, having therapeutic sessions with young people online, I think it feels a bit detached. So young people are really engaging, able to talk about issues, and then they're able to just put the phone away or the laptop away and it's done. You haven't come into their homes. You're not having to talk face to face. So for some young people, it's been really good. For other young people, they've really missed that human connection of seeing someone, actually being able to do something with somebody, because sometimes living in really quite isolating situations. likewise, staff, staff found it really hard getting into working at home, having no routine, getting up, wearing their joggers all day, feeling that they were kind of losing a grip on what was happening, and for some of them managing children as well. So it was quite difficult at the start, but certainly as things have gone on, people have got really used to it, and so I think that's been a comfort to some, and we've kind of just kept in touch about what feels okay, and I think after the initial 3 weeks, we moved into allowing there were allowed to be 2 people in the office per team, so people were really quite glad to be getting back a little bit, but also just wanting to make sure we're keeping safe, keeping distances, and actually just this week it's progressed on to 3 people in the office, so people are starting to really enjoy that connection, actual face-to-face seeing somebody. And I guess what I've found is there's probably been a lower production as people have come back together, because they're just so happy to be chatting and being colleagues and supportive, because I guess what we do is quite emotionally draining. And as you know yourself, Maria, I think sometimes you're not actually wanting to talk about the job, you just want to talk about how you're feeling about the job and what's going on. So that's been quite helpful, people coming back. But equally, I've got one person who I don't think she ever wants to come back. She's really embraced working at home, having her family there all day. So I think for some it can be a very different experience, but for most I feel they've really been desperate to get some human connection in person. But yeah, I think for a lot of our clients, some of them initially found it really difficult, and I guess because of their own circumstances don't have lots of laptops or phones, so it can be really difficult to always include them in things. But actually some of the feedback we've had, there seemed to be an increase in people just phoning families just to find out how they are, because there was a sense that we were all in it together. It was quite a scary time. So there's been a real increase in certainly workers in my team phoning people just to say, are you all right? Do you need anything? And what we've had fed back to us is people feeling that our concern for them is about them being just a person as opposed to for having an agenda. So there's been some really nice bits like that. So yeah, it's been really strange, but good bits and bad bits. Yeah,
that's really interesting. There's so much in that, Martina. That was really, you can see how people are, it's like that process of change and getting used to changes, and then adapting to it, and then finding another change and then adapting. But I'm really interested in how these kind of weird boundaries that we have really they've been beneficial for some children and not safe for others. It's like I'm really interested in that. There's been that digital space has probably, as sounds like for some kids, has made them feel a bit more able to engage. So yeah, it's like it's given them that a little bit more space, or a strange kind of maybe feeling of I don't know, that power, that sense of self-efficacy or whatever to decide what to do there, or just it can make them feel more engaged. And then there's the other ones who need that, who need that kind of that direct, and they feel kind of isolated. It's really interesting. But also, and especially and it's mirrored in with your team as well, isn't it? It's really, mirrored in with some people like that kind of space, and some people just need that comfort of that, that human connection, that I want to share these things with you, I need that space. So that's really interesting, isn't it? But I think we forget about how it affects the workers, doesn't it? It's just, the workers, it's the same as the families. They're going through the same things. They're human as well. They're going through exactly, very similar things in terms of what's happening with this.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So as you say, that's lovely that what it's done is people feel that they can just that they're like phoning up, even though they don't need to, just to see how you are, because it feels like we're all in it. As you said,
Yes.
we're all in it together, and that's a really lovely kind of thing.
Yeah.
That it's kind of strange. It's kind of broken down a little barrier there. Or
for sure, because I mean, I think as you know, I mean, I guess between ourselves and our service users, there's always this, you know, for want of wanting it not to be there is a power imbalance. There is a role that's very different between the social worker and our families. But I guess there's elements of COVID that have really brought we're just all people in that umbrella. And actually, certainly in our team, you know, because our children are all in care in one way or another, things like family contact hasn't been able to take place because we can't be able to facilitate that because of lockdown. And that's been really difficult. But, you know, I've been absolutely amazed at how well families have understood and taken that on board, that they can't see their children as much as they want to because of the lockdown. But I think what's made it easier is that the narrative is very much that, you know, we ourselves as workers can't go and see our parents, we can't go and see our loved ones, that everybody's just having to follow those rules, and that's made it so much easier. And there's been a shared understanding of how difficult that can be. So on some ways it's brought those similarities into play. So it's just really strange times.
Hasn't it? Yeah, and it's like there's opened up and like this sense of this compassionate understanding for each other, which is really great. Even though I can imagine some families in your line of work could be a really challenging situation, challenging, and cause, you know, some quite difficult family dynamics, and you know, some children might really struggle, or some parents might really struggle with it. But the shared understanding there is for everybody, knowing that, as you say, that power imbalance is still there, but this situation has got a level playing field almost, hasn't it? Everybody is experiencing similar emotions, and it's bringing that understanding, that compassion for each other.
Definitely.
That's
definitely
really interesting.
I mean, I think another observation I've had is, I guess our children being in foster homes and such like, I guess whilst there's been people concerned that children haven't been going to school and that lack of socialisation and all these things, we've actually seen the reverse for some of our young people, you know, because the younger people that we work with, you know, they've experienced a lot of trauma, they don't always feel very safe, they don't feel secure. And as we know, a lot of our young people struggle in education, they struggle with their peers. And actually for 12 weeks, you know, 13 weeks, we've seen actually young people really enjoying being at home with their foster carers, really enjoying being homeschooled. So you've got one person who you trust that's providing all of your care needs. And actually what we've seen is that's worked really well for some of our young people. So I suppose for me, there is some trepidation about what it'll be like as we try and integrate people back into schools and communities. But certainly for our young people, that's worked really well for most of them, actually. I would say a high percentage.
Yeah. And that you can totally see how, because I've spoken to some parents and the kids have had, you know, even though it may have been a struggle, they've had that kind of that unusual time together that they don't, it's all broken up normally, but that consistent togetherness there, and learning more about each other and appreciating and doing things together. And I can understand that with children who have been through so much, you know, so many really inconsistent situations, and just having that total cocoon, you know, that place where it's just it's there all the time. There's no stops and starts. It's just that, you know, that one person, that kind of unconditional kind of attention there, just it's nice and settling. So you kind of want, that's lovely, nice and settled, isn't it?
Yeah.
And you kind of wonder, maybe it's given, you know, hopefully it's given that child that strength to manage these changes as we go through.
Yeah.
Like, you know, people will be more aware, hopefully, of managing these transitions as we move through. So that's something to hold on to, I suppose.
Yeah.
Isn't it?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. And I can imagine though, Martina, and like this is a similar thing that's coming through from all the interviews, is this boundary. We have found this secureness through chaos. We find this secure boundary, and people are in this situation where we're now going into a change, but they want to be able to hold this secure boundary. They want to hold this. They find something within themselves. They find this security, and they want to hold on. So there's something about protecting that, what we've found, what we've explored, what we've realised that we need. Protecting that as we move forward, and everybody is having the same experience with that.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think at the start there was probably a real sense and at a personal level that you feel like there's a lot of losses. So you can't really go out and do things like you would normally do, and it felt a bit restricting. But then when I sat and thought about it, I actually was really enjoying the idea that life just felt a bit slower. So actually, it was quite nice not to have the pressure of, you know, kind of what was going to happen, or people you had to see, or things you had to do. So it was actually quite nice that your world just felt a little bit smaller, because I think we just get caught up with day to day. You go to work, catch up with people, do lots of things. So it's actually been a time that's been quite relaxing, and I think as things are starting to open up, a bit like when COVID was when the lockdown was first happening, people's reaction to more freedom is very mixed now, and there's some people really happy to think about going back to the beer gardens and getting a haircut, and you know, they can't wait to go on holiday. But I'm probably at the far end of not really ready for that yet, and I think there's a real mix of people around about that, because I think there's a sense that as things relax, people start thinking that COVID's just disappeared and that we've gone back to normal, but we haven't gone back to normal, and that's quite anxiety provoking. But it's harder for people to understand, because I think people understand boundaries in terms of these are things you definitely can't do and these are things you can do, but the bit in between of transitioning is quite confusing for people, I think.
Yeah, that's so true. And I'm wondering, you know, it's interesting, Martin, I'm wondering what it's been like for you, you know, for your personal life and what's it been, you know, how's it been like for you? Has it brought anything different in for you, or has it affected your family life?
I mean, I suppose in some senses I feel, I guess it's made me really grateful for what I have actually got. So, you know, I suppose I've had the luxury of having a garden. You know, I live here with my partner. He's been here all the time working, which is strange because our home's become an office. But in some ways, because I've been going to work every day, we haven't really had to be together all day long. So there's still that bit of going away, coming back, reconnecting, which is actually quite nice, because there's a bit of separation, which, you know, because as much as you can care about somebody, it's good to have a bit of space out sometimes. So I do think for other families that might feel quite overwhelming, just being together all the time. So I do feel really fortunate from that point of view. And I suppose I feel really fortunate that I've got space to go out. The weather's been really nice. So on a personal level, I quickly got used to just being around the house and doing things, and we're always busy with home renovations or gardening or something, never ending. So I guess it just takes your mind off it, because you're always catching up and doing things. And I suppose in terms of reflection, I mean, I guess sometimes I've seen myself as being a really social being. You know, I really like having friends, going out and doing things. But as time's gone on, I think I am actually, and I think COVID's kind of brought this to the surface, I think I am actually fairly, I don't know, I quite like my own company. I quite like just being at home, not having things to do, pottering in mud. So I've kind of really enjoyed all those bits. And I'm actually a bit worried that I'm going to become a hermit and struggle to go back out into the world. So yeah, it's affected me like that, in terms of really just enjoyed my own space. Certainly I struggled at the start with I think there was a real sense of everybody wanting to have Zoom parties or Skype parties, and it was nice to see people, but it's really overwhelming, the whole digital thing. It's quite intense, I think. And also I found that we were talking to people more frequently than we would really see them in the real world in person, because you're kind of accessible. So it was just full on for a time, but
yeah.
So I'm quite glad that's kind of died down a bit, as people are able to see each other a bit more in terms of social distancing, because I don't think video calls and stuff are for me for the long haul.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's true, and that's something else that's come up. I have to admit that was overwhelming for me as well, Martina. The whole digital, because it was, I should say, it was full on. Everything was you were having meetings all the time, and it was just overwhelming. And I think everybody was, we were hearing the same thing coming through. Everybody was starting to feel that, and it is actually kind of caused a lot of anxiety, because it made people feel like, should I be doing this? Am I not doing enough? Am I doing more? Am I doing too much? And it was just so much with their own family life and everything. So we saw people, as she said, taking a step back but realizing that actually they didn't need all this stuff, and they found other things to do. There's loads of people going into their gardens and digging about in mud and things. But it's therapeutic, isn't it? Kind of slow, as you were saying earlier on, that nice slower pace has actually been really healing for people. Really kind of just bringing them back to thinking about, what do I actually like? What's really good for me? What am I, what's really for me and what isn't for me? That kind of understanding, learning more about themselves. So that's really, that's really great. That's really good. And thank you so much for this, Martina. It's been a really brilliant conversation we've had, and it's really enlightening as well to hear about what's happening, but no matter what part of life or what section of life or what you're going through in life, there's still that single thread of that everybody is experiencing. Saying there's that common understanding that we're all experiencing the same emotions. So it strangely brings you together, no matter what area of life you're in, no matter what you're going through, no matter what section you're in, you're going through the same thing. And I'm wondering, Martina, is there anything else that you wanted to say or offer to people who might be going through similar situations?
I mean, I suppose, I guess my perspective is that people have got to do what feels right for them and not feel that there's a way to be at the moment. I mean, I think you've just got to do what you can do to feel like you're okay. So I think, that whole bit about people have been homeschooling and all these sorts of things. I mean, there's a lot of pressure, but actually even talking to colleagues in education, I think parents are putting a lot more pressure on themselves than is expected. I think you have to just think about the small things, stuff that's going to make you happy, and not actually worry too much. Some people might be ready to do some things, go out to the pub, whatever. Some people might not be, but whatever is right for you is probably going to be right for you. So I think it's trying to be guided by yourself rather than what's outside, isn't it? So I think that's what I'm trying to follow. So hopefully that's what other people are doing as well.
That's such great advice. Don't be hard on yourself. Just do what's right for you. Don't be concerned about what anybody else is doing, how they're it's to be okay and know that you do what's right for you, and that's that's lovely. Great. Okay, Martina, thank you so much again, and I hope you have